Okay, so what I like to do is I like to make all my food the night before, so that way the next day when I wake up, I don't have to make nothing. It's already pre-made. All I have to do is literally just wake up and come and eat it. Now, next week, Monday, I'm actually going down on my food, so this is going to be made for Monday. So I guess tomorrow. Um, so I was doing 11 ounces of yogurt per meal, but now I'm actually dropping it down to 6 ounces. And the reason why I'm going down to 6 ounces on the yogurt, and I was doing 3 ounces of blueberries and 4 ounces of bananas, but I'm going down to by 1 ounce on each of them because that's going to drop my calories by 262 calories per day. And I'm looking to see, I'm used to putting a lot more in there.
Let me see the yogurt brand like that you use.
Okay, so I use this yogurt. It's fat-free yogurt, and this brand right here is super thick, and it has the most amount of protein, 18 grams per scoop, well, per 3/4 cup with only 5 carbohydrates. And what I like about this is there's less carbs, more protein, and it's incredibly thick. The reason why I like it to be thick is because some of the other stuff is really wet and runny, but you can add a little bit of water like I do, and to change the consistency of it if you don't want it that thick. And the reason why I do this is because I add in 2 scoops of protein for each yogurt meal. Now again, I was doing 11 ounces with 2 scoops of protein, but now I'm going to be doing 6 ounces with 2 scoops of protein. So it's going to thicken it up a lot. So I add a little bit of water to this to thin it out, so it's not so like chalky or clumpy. And then what I'm going to do is check the consistency of it. If it's too thick, I'll just add a little bit more water to it. And this is plain Greek yogurt. I don't use flavored Greek yogurt or nothing. I actually don't mind the flavor of yogurt, so it's not like an issue for me to have plain yogurt.
And then you just do a little mixy mix.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mix it up. Like I said, you can see how thick that is. And that's why I add a little bit of water to it, because I want it to be a little bit creamier.
Smells good. Smells like
Yeah.
chocolate milk.
Yeah, it really just honestly tastes like chocolate to me. Like I don't even taste any of the tartness from the yogurt.
Is it because of the protein powder, you think?
Yeah, oh, 100%. But even like I said, this brand of yogurt right here, I can just eat this plain and it tastes fine to me.
I like watching your booby bounce around while you're stirring that. Am I allowed to say that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Once I get that, I'll mix it. And again, if I don't like the consistency of it, I'll just add a little bit of water to it, and then I'll make it a little bit thinner, or I won't put so much water and make it thicker. From there, we'll just add some blueberries to it.
How many ounces do you do?
2 ounces. I was doing 3, but I'm dropping it to 2 ounces
Okay.
because I'm trying to get my calories down some.
I gotcha.
There's some massive blueberries too. I think these are the biggest blueberries I've ever seen. Normally they're tiny, tiny, tiny.
It kind of makes it like you get less, though. I know it's the same amount, but you know what I mean? Because per bite, because they're so big.
Yeah. Okay. And here's the thing. I do frozen bananas now.
Let's see the bag that you picked.
I do frozen bananas because I was buying them fresh, but they would go like they'd get ripe, and then your banana is this big when you first buy it, and then by the time you get down to the last one, it's like so small and shrunk. So it's like the calories have to change in it, right? So if you weigh out 5 ounces of banana and a fresh banana, it's this big, but then the banana sits for like 5 days and it gets this big. So it's like there's still the same amount of calories in that amount of banana. It's just it's concentrated down. So it's like it's 5 ounces on a fresh banana the same as 5 ounces in a ripe banana because it's concentrated because it shrunk. So after that and wasting a bunch of them, I decided to go to frozen because of.
And then they just get mushy, I'm sure too.
Yeah, and then the thing about the frozen bananas is the texture when they defrost, they're really mushy. So once they defrost in here, they turn it pretty much just straight mush. So whenever I mix it after it's like,
When it's time to eat it.
yeah, it just dissolves into the yogurt, and you don't even notice the bananas. Like there's like literally no texture from them at all. Like they're pretty much just dissolved into nothing, which I prefer that. And the reason why I do the bananas and the blueberries is because of I like the potassium. I had issues with high blood pressure. Not high blood pressure. My blood pressure was like the
Elevated.
Yeah, well, it was like in the 140s, like the high 140s, low 150s, and then my lows were like in the mid 80s to like low 90s. And doing the bananas and the blueberries, and I also take a potassium supplement, that's got my blood pressure back down to normal.
Yep.
So now that these are done, I'm gonna put these in the fridge. And then tomorrow, when I wake up at 6 o'clock, this will be ready to go. And then after my workout, which, this will be ready for my post-workout. Then when I get done eating them, I'll make them again. So that way the next day there's no excuses. First thing in the morning, they're ready to go.
Right, right.
So, okay, so for my rice, I use jasmine rice. I really like jasmine rice. And I weigh everything out raw. I don't weigh it out after it's cooked, and the reason why I don't like to weigh it out after cooked is because I have noticed, so this is 10 ounces of rice right here, measured dry. I'm going to add 5 cups of water to this, and I'm going to cook it for X amount of time. And I've noticed sometimes when I'm weighing out, now this is going to be for 2 days, and this is going to be for 6 meals. 3 meals a day for 6 meals worth of rice. So that's 5 ounces of rice per meal. But whenever I go to weigh it out after it's cooked, because I do weigh it out after it's cooked to make sure that my meals are even, sometimes they'll swell up to 7 ounces, sometimes 7.5 per meal, sometimes 8 ounces per meal, sometimes 9 ounces per meal. Depends on how much water got in there, depends on how much evaporated, how much it cooked, whatever. So because of the volume is always different after it's cooked, I always measure it out raw. So no matter how much it weighs after it's cooked, I know the calories and carbohydrates are going to be the exact same every single day, no matter what. Then when I make an adjustment to my rice, I make it here when it's dry, not whenever it's cooked. So after that, I changed this to grams, and I put 16 grams of salt in that. I'll add 5 cups of water to this. Excuse my extremely dirty stove. It's been a while since I've cleaned it. I've had priorities. Okay, so I used to have a rice cooker, and I used to use my rice cooker all the time, but as I got older, I stopped using it because we flooded back in 2017, and we lost everything we had, and my rice cooker was a part of that went in the flood. And I just never rebought one, so I do this now. So those are wondering, why did you buy a rice cooker? Well, that's why. Okay, so after I got my rice going, that's where I start my meat. And remember, all this is for 2 days worth of food. So I go to Sam's where I buy my food, and they come in 1 pound packs. I do 4 of them. They're actually more than 1 pound because all 3 of these together is 3.3 pounds. So it's like a pound 0.10 or 1.10 pounds or 1 pound point, whatever, you get what I'm trying to say. If you don't have one of these little meat choppers, you should really get one. Well, at least if you cook as much meat as I do. And if you like your ground meat mashed up real tiny, this makes a quick work of that versus having to use a spatula. While that's cooking, go ahead and start weighing out my beef stock. Yes, I weigh out my beef stock. I don't use a measuring cup. The only thing I use a measuring cup for is my water, because that's not so crucial for the rice. I measure this out to be 4 ounces. I don't do fluid ounces. I just do regular old ounces. So I do 4 ounces a meal of the beef stock. The reason why I like beef stock is because it's made with bone marrow. Well, it's made with bone, or however you want to say it, and there's just more nutrition in this than in just regular beef broth. Plus, I like the way this tastes, but use whatever you want if you're going to kind of mimic this diet. Another thing I do, a lot of people say it's a big no-no on, I stir my rice. A lot of people say, don't stir the rice, don't stir the rice, leave it alone, don't agitate it. I agitate it quite a few times while I'm cooking it. Reason being is I like my rice to be more mush. Just because after the ground meat's cooked and it's mixed with the beef stock and the ground meat, I want it to be as small as possible and easy to swallow. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time sitting there chewing and chewing and chewing. And the smaller it gets, the more mushy it gets, the easier it mixes with the broth and the ground meat. I'm not trying to eat clumpy rice. I like the flavor of jasmine rice, and I understand that it's a clumpy rice, but I actually just really like the flavor of it. I know after the 4 pounds of ground meat's done being cooked, it's going to come out to roughly 10 ounces per meal. Right around 10, 10.3 per meal. The rice is going to come out around 7.5, 8 ounces per meal. But like I said, it can vary. The ground meat can vary depending on how much fat was in the cut, because ground meat's not an exact. I know they put 93.7, but it doesn't mean it's going to be the exact same fat content or water content every single time. So the weight can vary it could vary slightly. Same thing for the amount of water that cooks off or that remains in the rice as you're cooking it. So I always like to weigh everything raw. And then after I cook it, I like to just evenly distribute it by weighing it again. But it doesn't really matter to me what the weights are after it's cooked, because I know they're the amounts that I need. It's just I'm trying to get them as even as possible across the board whenever I'm weighing them out. So whenever this is done being cooked, I'm going to measure them out and then divide them between the meals. All right, so now I'm going to weigh the rice out. I'm going to start off with like 7.5 ounces per container, and then whatever's left over, I'm going to even it out throughout the meals. Okay, so my rice actually ended up coming out to 7 ounces per meal because it got overcooked a little bit. So instead of it being 7.5, 8 ounces, it was actually 7 ounces. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, I always weigh my rice before I cook it, because if something happens, if like the burner gets left on or turned up too high or turned down too low, or there's more water, or if it's hotter in your house or colder or whatever, like the way it evaporates and the water leaves it, it seems like it's always a different measurement every single time I get them cooking it. So this time it weighed out to 7 ounces, almost even every single meal, but it's still 5 ounces of rice per day, regardless of what the end weight is. So, and then from here, what I do is I'll just mix the rice up inside the beef stock. Now we'll weigh this out. We'll zero the scale back out, and now this should come out to right at 10 ounces per meal. At least we're going to start with 10 ounces per meal, and then we're going to go from there and see what's left over. So every meal's weighed out to 10 ounces, and that's what's left over. So like I said, it's roughly 10 ounces for each meal. So 4 pounds, what's actually 1.1 pound, like I said earlier. So it's like 4.4 pounds. So it's almost 4.5 pounds, I guess, worth of meat, and it cooks down to almost 10 ounces per meal. So I do 4 ounces of stock with 7, 8, 9 ounces of rice, which is actually 10 ounces cooked out and divided between 6 meals, which comes out between 6 to 9 ounces, depending on the water, of course. You add more water, you get more volume. And then 4 pounds of meat cooked down, and then the 4 ounces of the beef stock. So now from here, all I'm gonna do is just basically mix this together. I'm gonna mix all these meals together because whenever I go to heat them back up, I already want everything mixed together. So literally all I have to do is just heat it up and then eat it. It makes it super convenient and easy. And by doing this, what it does is it prevents me from making excuses, because if I don't have this ready, and I say, oh, I could wake up and cook it fresh, to be honest, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to wake up and cook it fresh for the day or every single meal. I'll find every excuse that I can to get out of cooking it and eating it. So if I just simply take a few minutes out of every other night's evening and I cook 2 days at a time, so this is going to be for tomorrow and the day after, and then I'll cook it again. So every 2 days I cook it fresh. And I know people say like, oh, once you cook rice and then you cool it and then you heat it, it becomes like there's something about the molecules that break down and it becomes more insulin resistant or something like that with the insulin, and it's way better to eat rice that's fresh or just freshly cooked or not heated and reheated because it does something to it. But honestly, I've been doing this for over 10 years with my rice, and if it's affected me in a negative way, it's been so minor, I haven't even noticed it. So, but like I said, I'm gonna mix these up. I'm gonna put the Tupperware, I'm gonna put the lids on them once they cool down, and then I'll throw them in the fridge, and then I'll be ready to go for tomorrow for my meals. And then I'll do a day of what my daily life looks like on Saturday, with me eating and doing my daily stuff and how I fit all my meals in.